All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the conversation today. I'm AJ Bianco, joined as usual, you're on this side, with my man, Dave Frangiosa. And today we're going to talk about a topic that's kind of been something Dave and I have been talking about through text and through a lot of conversation. And the topic is about success and how we find success today in the situation that we're in with schools. So that's why we called the episode Success Isn't Linear. And this was a big topic for us, and Dave's going to talk more about it. So, Dave, why don't I kick it over to you? Tell the audience why we're talking about success not being linear.
Yeah, sure. So we talk to a lot of people in a lot of different aspects of education, and it seems like right now, the majority of the people that we know are in some kind of rut or not feeling maybe as effective or successful as they have in the past, or whatever it is. Things aren't going the way that we're used to them going. And I mean, like, I'm feeling it too. Um, and we're just kind of reflecting back on, this is my 16th year in education. So like right now, this kind of rut that I'm in, does this kind of negate everything that I've done before this? Like, because I'm not feeling like the best teacher. I'm not feeling like I'm getting the best out of my students. They're not getting the best version of me. And I know I'm not alone, right? And I know that you're feeling some of this stuff in admin too, and it's just a really tough time, and we wanted to get more people in this conversation and just be kind of honest about it. And you know um like, it is a rough time. So how do we, what's making it rough, and how do we move forward? All right. So last time we got together, we had some trouble with people commenting in the Twitter chat. So
Mm-hmm.
anybody who's looking to actually be part of the conversation, if you want to go over to YouTube. All right. So here's the YouTube link. So just go over there and you can be part of the conversation. Put your comments in the chat. We'll put them up on the screen. And then we're going to post a link in here later if you want to actually come on, join us, tell us your thoughts. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, pretty plain and simple. So again, this is an episode for the masses. It's a big deal because, as Dave said, he's struggling. I'm struggling. There are other educators out there. You may be struggling if you're listening to this podcast. So, it's a topic that is near and dear to us, as Dave said. So I think we really looking for as much participation as you want, as the audience, and let's kick this thing off, Dave. So,
All right. So I guess the first thing that the first question that came to my mind is, who defines success, right? And I think that kind of frames a lot of how people are feeling, right? So I'll throw that question to you. So for you, who defines success?
all right. So before I answer it, and I know this is something you text me and you told me to think about this, and it's something I was thinking about, but in what way am I looking at success? Like, am I looking at success as my staff is doing what needs to be done? My students are controlled. I'm putting that in quotes. That my paperwork is done, and it's like, what is the success that we're talking about? Because there's a lot of different success I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, I guess that's exactly the point is, how are we defining success? Because, for me, I have personal success, me,
Mm-hmm.
my family, all of that, and then professional success, both personally and student based. And, so I guess I look at it three different ways, but even within those contexts, who's defining what success is in those contexts?
Yeah. So thinking about this one, like success for me, like I'm my own worst enemy. And this is something we have talked about for so long, Dave. I judge everything I do, whether it is good, bad, or different. I'm always thinking about, did I do the right thing? Was this a good day? Was I a good dad? Was I a good husband? Was I a good administrator? Did I handle situations right? So like a lot of that is sitting on me throughout a given day, right? So when I wake up in the morning and I plan my day and figure out where I'm going to the time I put my head on the pillow, you know, thinking about everything that I did and wondering if I did a good job. So Am I doing good by my kids? Am I doing good by my wife? Am I doing good by the principal that I work with? Am I doing good by the students that I work with, the teachers I work with? Am I doing good by myself? You know, did I hit my workout goals for the day? So my success like could vary at any point of the day. And I think that's really honestly the hardest part because that's what's bringing me down, you
But
know.
are you defining that, or are you looking at what other people are doing and thinking, "I
It's
should be
both.
doing."
It's
Okay.
both. It's both. It's comparing. It's thinking about, my actions. It's thinking about the things that I did. It's wondering because you don't get feedback a lot in our profession. You don't get a pat in the back all the time. So like, is it nice sometimes to hear that you're doing a great job? You know, every night I hear I love you, Dad. I get that. And that's success to me. It makes me feel good. But there's other ways that you need to like have those moments of I feel good about the things I did today. I think today was a good day because while you might think you did something well, and somebody else is going to say, "Nah, you didn't do that right," and somebody's unhappy. Today was not a successful day because you left somebody unhappy. You forgot to check in on somebody who was struggling in your building or in your own home.
Yeah. And look, it's tough, but I think the minute we let anybody other than ourselves define what success is, we're already not meeting it. Like everybody has different situations, right? And
Hmm.
so, I mean, I've been home for the past 2 weeks. So, 2 years, one of my goals was to get my son to his fifth birthday, so we could get him vaccinated, like without catching COVID, right? Um, a month and a half away, and 2 weeks ago, you know, our whole family just got wiped out, so, and like, so for me, that was like, we made it so far. We were so careful for 2 years. And like, I define personally as a father, success is protecting my family. And that was,
Hmm.
um, so that was one of the things that, was really important to me is, I want to do the best in my power to keep my family safe and, just to be responsible because, regardless of what people think about, COVID,
Hmm.
it's not something that I wanted to be reckless with and expose my kids to if I didn't need to,
Of course.
and the way it happened at daycare. He got it from there. They're very cautious. They're doing everything right. Um, you know, and sometimes things happen and
Hmm.
like but it was frustrating because like I was so close and that was one of my goals and like that's a moment where you know I felt not like I failed but like it was a gut punch, right? And so then I'm sick, I'm taking off, like I've never taken off this many days from school. I was out sick more this year than I've been in my previous 9 years at Hills. And like that's something that I pride myself on is being there for my students. And so in those regards I'm not feeling as successful as I've been, you know um but things happen, right? So
Hmm.
personally I'm going through that. Professionally, my students aren't getting the best of me because I am distracted, right? Like trying to you know, have my family at home, keep them safe, keep them like happy. And, so it's tough, but yeah, I mean, we have to move on. And so like, this doesn't define me. I don't think that because I'm going through a little rough stretch as a teacher, I'm any less of a teacher,
Right.
you
So you're
know?
not you're not seeing yourself as a failure. I don't want to say that word, and
No,
it's a powerful word, but you just
no.
for the moment you took a detour, I guess.
Yeah, right. And that's the whole premise of this is success isn't linear, right? We're gonna hit these times where, you know what? We're not at the top of our game, and like now that's not to diminish what some people are going through. Like we said, there's some people who are going through some really rough stuff, and
Mhm.
like, it's all relative, right? And so only they know what they're dealing with, and that's why those external definitions of success, we got to kind of steer away from them and judging other people's situations, you know, um, like that's not productive for anybody. So,
No, of course not.
all right. So I know we started this off like a little on a down note, but so let's go to like what we define as success. Okay. So like where are we trying to get? Right. And we know it's going to be bumpy along the way. But before we do that, we got Mel joining us. So sorry, not feeling so good. Stick around for as long as you can. We're happy you're here.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
So yeah, like you started touching on this. What do you define? Like, how do you define success? What are you looking for?
That's such a hard question because there's so many things that go into what one successful day is like, right? So what is success? Is success
All right, so
making
how about this?
go ahead.
Let's zoom out a bit then, and let's just
Okay.
say 5 years. What professionally? How are you defining success? Like, what needs to happen over the next 5 years? What are your goals to say? All right, that's successful. Because if we look day to day, I mean, it gets really rocky.
Yeah, that's true because success would be it'd be a failure first thing in the morning, just getting the kids out of bed, right? But no, okay. So what it would be successful? Look, I feel like I have kind of achieved a little personal success where I'm at right now in the job that I have. This is something I've been going for a while, and I feel like I'm in a place where I'm extremely happy. I think seeing myself in this job for the next 5 years, I guess success would be uh, a school climate and culture that is, you know, I don't want to say like what we see on Twitter and all that nonsense, but I want a positive school climate and culture where the kids want to be in school and it's not just another chore for them. Where the teachers are excited to try new things and have innovative practices, where they are bringing more to the table than we are. Um, I think there's so many things that I can build on from that. I want to see classrooms that look a certain way. I want to see student centered learning. Like there are so many things, and I think over the next 5 years, I feel like we can get to that point. But that would be successful for me. So I'm at the point now where I can push my way towards that success. But of course, there needs to be a lot involved in the next 5 years to make it a success. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just working day to day to make that successful. And that's where I feel sometimes where I'm not as successful day to day because I'm not getting to the point where I want to be in 5 years. And I know it's chipping away. I know it's a long game, but it's hard to just say like today I did not work towards my goal, right? When I'm sitting and doing discipline all day long, I can't work toward the goal of getting those teachers to where they need to be and being the instructional leader that I want to be.
All right. So for those of you listening, if you're on Twitter and you want to come over and make some comments, join us on YouTube. We'd love to hear what you think, what your goals are, how you view success. So, if I'm talking professionally as well, one of my goals, actually my first goal is to make sure that students feel safe, students feel supported, and I give the students the supports that they need for them to get the most out of my course, right? So for me professionally, that's where I find success, right? And so you had asked me like, why am I opposed to plugging the book? Because that's the thing I did, right? It's not like I don't want that to define me. Oh yeah, he's the guy who wrote the book. Like, that's not to me success. It's important to me. I'm very proud of it, right? But that's not um, you know, um, not what I want everybody to say, okay, that's what he's all about. Because I'm not, right? For me, it's students first, right? And that's what that whole process was about. And you know, success is making sure that every day I show up, my students are getting that best version of me,
Hmm.
right? And at home, my kids are getting that best version of me.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it's not happening. on either front, just because of, and we'll talk about why in a minute, but so that's how I define success. And big shout out, we got Vanessa joining us here. Thank you for coming in. We had a great conversation the other night. She's actually my guest for Monday's podcast. So awesome educator. If you haven't connected with Vanessa, definitely find her. It's Hey Mrs. Ellis. So on Twitter and Instagram. So definitely connect with her. Yeah. And, anything you do doesn't matter, right? It's not going to be perfect, right? There's going to be ups and downs, and, you can't beat yourself up when you're in one of those downs, and, but it's real, and we can't deny that those downs are real.
Right. And then that's, I'm thinking about this now. Like sometimes that success or lack of success in a certain area, it just drags you. Right. So sometimes you come home from work and it wasn't a successful day based on your definition of success or your goals for that day. And then I feel like everything is off kilter and everything is going to be messed up. And then time with the kids and time with the wife and everything else is just flat.
Yeah.
So like, I wish we could say like, there's a way that you don't bring it home. Right.
Mm-hmm.
As we say, don't bring it to school. I find it much easier not to bring it to school than I do I find it harder to bring it, I bring it home all the time.
Yeah. Find it harder to leave it at school.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, sure.
It's so difficult because it just weighs in your mind. It's sitting there the whole time. And like, it just makes everything around me feel like a failure,
Yeah.
One little thing in the day, I know the quote, you didn't have a bad day. You had a bad moment in the day.
Yeah.
But like one little thing just kind of puts me off and just messes it up as I go forward. And I hate that. And that's hard. And I don't know if a lot of people are like that, but it's definitely my personality.
Yeah. And look, so Mel brings up a great point here. What is the best? Like, so if I'm saying the best version of myself, what is that? Well, the best version of me is a person who makes a ton of mistakes. And, when I'm at my best, when they're brought to my attention, I own them, and I try and correct them. That's the, and I mean, I guess that's really all I can do. I do the best with what I know. And when somebody brings something to my attention that maybe might not be the best way to go about something, I try and correct it the best that I can. Right. Mm-hmm. So, if we're talking about like students and, they're telling me, this lesson just doesn't work for me. Like when I'm at my best, I'm responding to that and saying, okay, great. What do you need from me that would get you there? Not that like I do everything perfectly. Like that's not what I mean by the best. It's I'm responsive, and right now I don't feel like I have the bandwidth to be as responsive as I've been in the past.
Right. So this now kind of brings the next part. Like, is it burnout? Like, do we just attribute everything to burnout or is it something different than that?
I don't think we can say burnout. And I know, you guys had a great episode on Podcast PD with Burned In Teacher, and like some of the things that she was saying, like, I was like, yeah, no, I get it. In normal times, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, but the past 2 years, like, it's not normal times. And like, so for me, I'm actually putting together a blog post for the February 1st. Why is this the toughest year yet? Mm-hmm. Like that's the title of it. And I really think, I don't think it's burnout. I think it's just cumulative exhaustion, and like we talked about that too. It's like, it's not one thing. I can't point to one thing and say like, this is what's really grating on me. It's just like, okay, we abruptly ended the end of the 1920 school year, and then we came back to this completely new model that nobody was familiar with whatsoever. Mm-hmm. We're doing this hybrid teaching, and hybrid meant something different for everybody. And for me, it meant teaching people in front of me as well as people who are on a screen. And like it was exhausting. And like so we had a half day of that, and then we had a half day that was like completely remote. And like I understand why, right? Because
Yeah.
lunch is still something that nobody's figured out,
Right.
you know. And
Right.
I understand the importance of getting students in school, you know. So it's it's just all of these things adding up, and now being this far into it, it's just like, okay, when is it gonna end? You know, and you see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, and then it's just like, okay, new variant, new wave, you know. And
Yeah.
then like, dealing with the home stuff, dealing
Right.
with, so like I just think all of that stuff adding up, it's, just cumulative. It's not an individual thing. It's not like, I still love teaching. I think it's great, it's just not perfect, like, and I don't think there's any way you can make it perfect.
Right.
So
And I think one of the things this year is also the fact that, and as Chris Nessie joins us, what's up, Chris? Thanks for joining. I think one of the things that we talk about is it's just there's no control. Like usually in education, we have a lot of control as to what we do in the classrooms, how we run our show. And now we're stuck in a situation where there's things that we just can't do. And just when we think we can do it and we have that control in our classroom again, there's new guidelines and new guidance that says, well, we can't do that anymore. We can't have desks facing kids. We can't have kids in groups. We got to move them back apart. So like just when we think that we're breaking through this point that we can actually have our regular way of learning and teaching, it gets pulled from us. And for somebody, classroom teachers in that situation, like I've just watched like the excitement then to just drop, and that's what it is. That like that rush of adrenaline is now gone and it can't come back because everything is changing and everything sounds so negative and so dire, you know, just, in New Jersey, just here in New Jersey, we are waiting for the next words of our governor. And everybody is assuming that he's going to make an announcement in the next couple of weeks that pulls masks away from schools again. And you can hear the buzz and you're waiting for it. And that's going to do something to some teachers. That's either going to make them feel nervous and deflate them, or they're just going to keep doing what they do. So again, we're going to get to that point where like we're waiting, and then the bubble's going to burst and then we're drained again. So
well,
like that up and down just throughout the
yeah,
year is just making everybody very tired and frustrated.
I stopped following all that stuff, and
Of
until
course.
until my admin tells me this is what we're doing, like, because that's another thing, like, limit those distractions. All right. So yeah, and I get what Chris is saying. Don't look for an end, lean in, and you know, like, yeah, and like when you're leaning in for a couple of years, like, it gets tiring. So, and that's a real thing. It's not I definitely I see it in students.
Mhm.
They're not engaging the way that they have in the past.
Correct.
There's and look, I don't blame them. I'm not saying like, I'm not trying to shift blame or say like, it's just assessing the situation is, for 2 years they're used to engaging with things one way, and now, we're back in a classroom full day, and you know, like expectations are different, and they're they're wanting to go about things in a more casual way that um you know isn't really helping them progress. And you know I'm not somebody that's punitive, and like, so for me it's conversations. Like I don't do points. I got rid of points like before any of this even happened. So for me, it's not like, hey, you, like, there's no carrot and stick. It's not you do this and you earn, and like, so it's a lot of conversations for me. It's just like, okay, look, here are your goals. Here's what you need to do to achieve those goals. Here's how I can help you. And just having those conversations, and it's just so hard for them to transition back after disruption of 2 years. And then like you have other teachers that are trying to just reset to 2019. And like it's just they're frustrated. The students are frustrated with that,
Yeah.
and then like so we have to find a balance. We have to find something that works, and right now nothing is working as well as it has for me in the past. And
Yeah.
once again, going back to like the whole purpose of this, I'm not saying that what people are doing is bad. It's just sometimes things just don't go well, right? And then we have to try and evaluate why, and see what we can do to move forward. And just understand that if everything was easy and it was a straight line to success, everybody would be there, you know, but it's not, and part of like this conversation is part of it, right? That reflection, refining, trying new things, listening to students, listening to teachers, listening to admin, listening to parents. What does everybody need and how can we best serve them?
It's very much well said, and I think I think we're forgetting some of that. You said we're going back to 2019. We're trying to find ways to educate students, make them feel right, but we can't give them what they want right now, and I think that's causing a lot of frustration for folks, and I think that's making us feel like we're not being successful. Our kids are coming out of a year and a half of using technology and getting these new ways of learning, and then just stuck right back where they were, lectured, a couple of worksheets here and there because it's a comfort zone. So I don't know if our students are feeling successful in that regard.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to join us and like share your thoughts, you can click on the link. If you're not on YouTube, if you want to just type that in, you can join us in the studio, give us your thoughts. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hey, that's loud.
All right. So here are a couple of terms that have been batted around, and so when we think of the things that are kind of standing in our way, I've heard a lot of imposter syndrome. Right. That's something that's been thrown out there quite a bit. So yeah, and I don't know if that's something that like I resonate with. I know sometimes like I think, am I the person to be doing this? I don't know if it's necessarily imposter syndrome, but like because I know I put in the work, right? But sometimes I don't feel like um, you know, maybe at this time with the way things are going, my message is as um I don't know. It's not as strong a message when you're struggling or like and I still think that everything that the 6 years that I put into like redefining my classroom, I still believe in all of that. I think it's valid. I'm proud of it. And but when you're looking at your students and saying not every day is sunshine and rainbows, and like just being honest about that. And it's not like
Mm-hmm.
you you don't just flip a switch. There's no magic bullet. Like, there's still going to be hard days, and sometimes like when you change things, like, people look at it like, well, hey, you're still dealing with problems. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, that's teaching, that's dealing with kids, that's dealing with anything, right? You're still going to deal with problems. So, and like in these little ruts, it's like, um, maybe that's why I kind of pull back a bit and don't share as much on social media. And, so what are your thoughts on that?
Ha. Yeah, man. Imposter syndrome is something that we've bounced around for years, Dave. I think it's one of the first topics that we actually had discussed when we first did our coffee to use. Um, Look, I feel like it's a real thing. I feel like it's definitely something that is out there, and it's something that has a hold on me at times. And like this is a podcast that I'm supposed to have. This Reflect Ed is something I feel like I should be doing because I have something to say and something to share. But at the same point, who cares? Who's this guy? Who does he think he is? That can share his voice, and he's not always, the all-knowing and all-powerful leader that he thinks he is or talks about. Because sometimes I don't feel that way, And this is why we talk about this episode, because we talk about success, and I don't feel like the things I'm saying are the things that I'm doing, and I feel like that makes me a phony, and that's a hard thing, because no matter how positive you are about what you're doing, obviously I'm at a point where I am in my career where I'm here, and I'm here probably for a reason, but still feel like I'm a phony because I feel like I'm not doing everything that I should be doing, everything I say I'm doing, and
Well,
it's hard.
I think it's impossible in this situation for anybody to do everything that they could possibly be doing. All right, so we have our first guest. So we are bringing Chris Nessie into the studio. The roles are reversed.
The roles are reversed.
Mr. Podcast over here.
Just going on,
saw
Chris?
a microphone. Chris had to get in. He saw a microphone. Hey, I feel like talking.
Time out. I debated whether or not I was going to click the button.
Get out of here.
But here's what I did. One, we do a show, Podcast PD. We look for people
Heard
to
of
call in.
I've heard
People
of it.
don't call in. So somebody has to call in. I want to set an example. Number one. Number two, I mean this very sincerely. To hear the two of you talk about feeling like you don't belong or you're not doing the things, I don't like to hear that. Especially from both of you. Because I have great respect for each of you. Dave, what you do with grading, the book. What's wrong with the book being part of the definition of who you are? It's part of what you do. Lean into that, and that's not everything that you are. It's a big piece. AJ.
Sure.
We've been talking for many years.
Many.
I'm tired of you picking on yourself.
Oh, stop it.
You just did. I was sitting in this
I
little
know.
green room,
I
and you're
know.
like, I'm not doing the things that I say I want to be doing. Cut the crap.
I wasn't whining. I don't think I was whining. I think I was just
embellished
being
that part a
honest.
little bit.
You
I
sure did.
embellished that part a little bit. But that was the tone. I don't like to see this.
Well,
Now,
look,
hold on. I'm not done yet. I'm guilty of it too. But it's easier to push than, easier said than done. So,
yeah.
You guys do. All right, go ahead, Dave. It's your show. What do you got?
Well, no. So, I agree with you, but I think that people need to hear that other people are struggling too, right? And people who, and I have a lot of respect for AJ too. And, I think he's doing a much better job than he gives himself credit for. And we talk about that, off air all the time. But, I think it's important for people to see that they're not alone, right? And in education right now, it can be very isolating, right? So I know there's some people who still aren't back in buildings. And I know for the people who are in buildings, they're not seeing their colleagues as much as they used to in the past. And, it's easy to feel like you're on an island, right? And, the journey sometimes is rocky. And right now, for a lot of people, it's rocky. That doesn't mean that, I don't think less of myself. I just think that sometimes, maybe now's not the time that I should be talking about certain things because, I just don't feel like I'm doing it as good as I can at this particular moment, and that's really it, and it's been this past month has been, a rough one just altogether. I don't know if you caught the beginning, my entire family got COVID, and so then coming off of that, teaching remotely, my kids are in school, I'm teaching from home, and I'm staring at the 23 blank tiles again, and it's it's a little deflating, and so not to say that it's not getting better. I totally believe that it is, and I totally believe that, my students are capable of more. And, we're going to get there, but, it's going to take some work and we're going to have to climb back up that hill. Right now, we're in a little bit of a rut, and that's really the whole purpose of this conversation is for people to see that, what, sometimes you're down. How do we work our way out?
I get it. I mean, life, everything, peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
But everything is an opportunity to learn. You're never as good as you are at your best, and you're never the worst version of the
Yeah.
bad times. You're always an average of everything. But no, I certainly agree with the idea that we need to be honest, and to have this conversation is a good thing. It's not easy, but it's not going to be not easy forever.
No, I get that, and here's the thing. I think that in a lot of respects, we make things tougher on ourselves by unrealistic expectations, right? So everybody wants things to be, as good, if not better than they were like coming into this pandemic, right? And, there's like students are dealing with stuff that they've never dealt with before,
Mhm.
right? So when you take the social emotional piece into it, right, and well, if you're not taking the social emotional piece into it and you're still pushing content, like you don't stand a chance, right? Like it's not going to be good for anybody, and like when we talk about social emotional learning, a lot of times we talk about it as these one-off activities where, we're saying, okay, how can we teach them how to manage stress, rather than actually saying, okay, how can I like design my course to where I actually value their experience and say, you know what, today you're having a rough day. Um, don't worry about the homework, or, you need to sit there and do no work today. Okay. I get why. Right. And when you're ready, you know, come back and we'll deal with it. And I don't think there's enough of that. It's just, and that's that, like, who's defining success, and we're letting a lot of external people define success. We're letting, legislature, we're letting test prep companies, we're letting colleges, we're letting a lot of outside people define what success is, and we're trying to meet an ideal that's just completely unreasonable. And so that's why, like, in my mind, if you're not the person defining success for you, you're never going to meet it, you know? And like, to me, that's a big part of this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had a young lady in one of my classes, first block of the day. She came in, she was a little more punchy and livelier than usual, which is odd for a ninth grader at 8 o'clock in the morning. And she came in like a, bat out of hell. And I was like, oh, you got a lot of energy today. And she said, I haven't gotten any sleep. I said, what? She's like, yeah, mister, I have not, I did not sleep last night. I am ready to go. I'm just like, why? So we had a little conversation. So she was kind of doing her work. I was giving them time to make up and improve some assignments here at the end of the marking period. And I was calling the kids up to conference with them, and I finally get to her. And I was like, so real quick, why didn't you sleep? Like, what's going on? Because, like, then she started, like, she had her hood on, and she was, like, starting to, like, put her head down. I'm like, you need to sleep. So I said, in the room I'm in, there's an office. It's not my classroom. So I said, here's what I want you to do for the next 40 minutes. Close your Chromebook, go in that room, close the door, turn the lights off, close your eyes for 40 minutes. Take a power nap. I said, you need that more than to do the assignment right now. I said, you still have time to finish the work. I said, you need to get some rest. She's like, what? She's like, no, I can't do that. I said, oh no, that's like, I'm the teacher. I'm telling you, that's what I'm telling you to do. Go sleep. She goes, but my mom. I was like, I know your mom. We've had conversations. She'll fully endorse me telling you to go close your eyes. She's like, yeah, you're right. And she went, she closed her eyes, she came back out, and she was like, thank you, mister. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, if you tried to push through that, what you did for her, right? She's going to have a much better day because of that, you know? And anything that you tried to teach her in that moment wasn't landing anyway, So and those are the things that I'm talking about, right? Those are the things that, we have to do, and just be a little more flexible, right? And I think for the people who are still, um, working remotely, right? There is more of that flexibility, but the people who are back in the building say, "Hey, we're here," right? Business as usual, and it's really not, because there's a lot of stuff that we got to get over before we can get back to some semblance of what things were before. But I don't want
Mhm.
to say normal, because what it was, I didn't agree with before all of this happened, you
Good
know
point. Good point.
so, I think rushing back to what we did before is a bad idea. And like for me personally, I think that's one of the things that I found the most deflating is, at the end of the 1920 school year, I was like so excited. Not that we were shut down and like there was a pandemic. I'm just saying, like, about school, that like, okay, everybody's looking for a different way. This is, this might be the event that causes everything to change in a good way. And it didn't, you know. And so, to me, that was a little bit deflating. And so, one of the obstacles to success, um, I think, is like not only that cumulative exhaustion, but like now we're trying to do new things, and or even if we're interested in doing new things, how many districts give them the time to do that? You know, And look, AJ, I know you're on the other side of the table, right? And
Mhm.
so there's certain things that have to get done,
Mhm.
right? And where do you find the time as an administrator to give to your teachers to be able to, collaboratively develop these things that are going to change education?
That's difficult, right? Because obviously the schedules are the same every day. So they have an hour a day where they have common planning time with their team. So they can do their PLC things there. They can meet. I'm not saying that I expect them to change the world in an hour, but I do expect them to kind of have time for them to collaborate and work together to find ways that they could push some ideas forward and see what's working in different areas. 5 hours a week is a small start, right? We have faculty meetings once a month where we really try to give them time during those meetings. At this point, for our faculty meetings, we want to do teacher academies where they can meet and work, but we don't find this is the right time for that, right? We don't think that putting more on a teacher to plan and to create something that people are not going to want to listen to, this is not the right environment. So we give them the freedom during their prep time that they have their time. We try not to have them cover classes. We try not to have them sub. We try to give them that hour. They have an hour in their schedule. That's for them. So that's built in. That's nothing that we do. But I got to be honest, we're extremely flexible in our school, where there's a lot for them to be able to do during a day. You know, we want them to be innovative. We want them to try new things. We want them to invite us in. So, I don't, we don't put any expectations of what they do during their time. We just hope that they actually use it well, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and an hour in the school day, right? Um, we know that.
That's not with lunch. They have a lunch period as well. So like we're
Sure,
not asking them
sure.
to use that time for lunch or anything like that. This is strictly an hour of their time to use it as they should for planning and or grading and or whatever else they want to do during that time.
Yeah, and it's a start,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not going to lead to the changes that probably need to happen. And I mean, let's be honest, there's probably some people who don't want these changes to happen.
Right. Right.
You
Happy
know,
doing what they, it's not, they're happy doing what they did. It works. They were successful. It made them feel good. It works for the kids. If they're focused just on standardized test grades, it gets them to where they need to be.
now I will tell you, like one of the big positives, and Chris, you can speak to this more, is all of the awesome tech tools that are now being developed that, if used properly, can really change the game. So what are some things that you've seen tech wise that can help kind of move us forward and get students engaged? And because I know, like, once again, no magic bullet, but there's definitely things
Mm-hmm.
that are kind of streamlining some things for teachers.
I can speak for what I've seen with some of my peers in my school's history department, because that's who I associate with most often. And even then, from a lot of people I work with, a lot of teachers have taken and adapted the best of remote and online learning and found a way to integrate it into having the kids every day in person, face to face. So a lot of some of the procedural stuff, having the kids, they've streamlined some of their attendance taking procedures because they develop ways to do that using Google Forms or Pear Decks or Nearpods to kind of check in with the kids. They're still leveraging tools like those. We're not so worried in my school now about having working ceiling projectors because all the
Mm-hmm.
kids now have their Chromebook, so they can still do a lot of those lessons that they prepared last year during remote learning. And now there's the added feature of, all right, now I can see you. We can actually have some of these conversations that were a challenge when we were just looking at avatars and icons. That's really the biggest thing I've seen is effective integration of, well, how did I do this when we were virtual and remote? And what can it look like to still use some version of it in the classroom face to face?
All right. So now, I mean, I guess that's really where we got to get to, right? Because it's all about students, right? We're in education for students, and like we have these conversations, and like nobody's denying that it's real for us, you know, and a lot of times we don't take that extra step, and we kind of touched on this to say, like, how is this affecting students, right? Are those things that were effective still effective? And like, how can I integrate the things that they liked when we were remote? And I think that's a really important point, right? Is just, don't say, okay, we're not doing that anymore because we're not in that setting. Say, you know what, it worked really well. And for me, um it really did help me refine how I communicated certain things. Not necessarily with tech, just in general. It's just because, my written communication got way better because it's just like, okay, you don't have me right there to say, oh, what I meant was. So now I became a lot more clear in like how I communicated to students. All right, this is what it means. This is what you should be doing. Like, so, and that became evident like pretty quickly. Once we went to remote, and it's something that I'm very cognizant of now, and it's not necessarily a tech thing. It's just, a thing.
I mean, with the technology, what do you envision going forward? Both of you guys, like, what is your hopes for technology in the classroom? Because look, when we think about technology 2 years ago, a lot of the technology was great technology for formative assessment. A lot of the technology was Google based, where we could help kids with their student centered learning and creating and doing project based things. What about going forward? Like I'm not familiar with the AR, VR component of learning. I don't know if that's going to take off. I don't know if that's something that we can even focus on here. But when you think about your classroom and the goals you want to accomplish with students, is technology becoming more than that formative assessment tool? Is it becoming something that's more hands-on? Is it more teaching tools? Like where are we going?
You want to take that one first, Chris?
I'll take first crack at it. And what initially comes to mind is for the teacher who was uncomfortable and hesitant to integrate and really use technology in their instructional practice, the virtual and the hybrid stuff force them to have to use that. And I have seen more teachers become more comfortable using the tools because they had to. So I think there are less professionals out there who are afraid to try things because they did it, and their classroom didn't explode, the world didn't end, they didn't break anything. All the things I've been talking about for years, none of that bad stuff happened. So I think there is a long-term effect of teachers are going to be more comfortable using technology in some capacity. Is there still going to be some hesitation? Sure. It's going to happen. For what we do in the classroom with students and how students are going to use technology, again, I think we give students too much credit at times for being able to use technology and being digital natives. We give them weight. Sorry, I don't. But a lot of people give kids too much credit. All right. I have taken the mindset of you're familiar, like you know how to like pick up the device, you can type and stuff. I'm trying to teach kids, and more people are going to be trying to teach students how to more effectively create with technology, communicate with it, collaborate, and use it as a tool, not just a toy. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest differences is even kids are starting to see what is possible because of how they had to experience education and learning, not just playing on the Chromebook or just playing on their phone. They got to really experience this is a tool that can do a lot more than play Snake or go to cool math games or, watch Netflix and things like that. So that's kind of two avenues that I see.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And for me, technology has mainly been the communication and collaboration piece. And I had a chance to speak to the founder of Got Learning. It's growth over time, which I think for me personally is going to be a game changer. It's not an LMS, and I have some challenges with learning management systems because you know they start off good, but then they're catering to districts who go to traditional grading, and so they kind of sell out. And like some of the features that made them cool and innovative, and like they kind of take away when they're trying to go larger scale. This is more of a bridge. So this is between like the student information system and the LMS. And what it does, it keeps all of the student information in one spot. So when you're talking about that formative assessment tool, they can it just fits perfectly with what I do, because I do a lot of um, you know reflection, I do a lot of self-assessment, I do a lot of feedback, and all of this would be in like these different learning discussions. And so like they can upload their original piece, and then like you'll actually have it's a two-way communication, so it's not just me giving feedback. I can upload videos, I can mark up their stuff, they can actually take photos of handwritten notes on their stuff, and all of that is in one conversation, so you can see, rather than clicking on like a whole bunch of different submissions, you can see where it started, how they use that feedback to get to a final product. And for me, that's like a game changer, because that's exactly what I'm looking for, is how are you progressing in these skills over time. And like, so that's what I'm talking about like the creation of different apps, things like that coming out that are going to fill a need. Yeah, Tyler, he tweeted about that today. It's an awesome product. I'm actually going to have the founder of that, I'm speaking to him on March 1st. and that's going to be a podcast episode. You can listen to him. He was on Matt Rhodes on his podcast, Navigating Education. You know, awesome guy. He was a former teacher. So like, he's not doing it from like the ed tech perspective. He's doing it from the classroom perspective, saying, this is what I wish I had as a teacher. And hopefully we see more of that kind of stuff coming out. But that for me is one tool that is, it's going to be huge.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Definitely something different.
Yeah.
All right. So look, we're running up on an hour here. I don't think we need to go further. We talked about success. We talked about how our paths to success are not linear, as is the title of this. Let's focus on success to close out this episode. I think I'm gonna put you guys on the spot here. So we're coming up to February, right? So I'm gonna ask the basic question. And Christopher, since you're here, you're gonna get on this too, and we'll check in with you at the end of the month. We talk about success. To get it to February, how would you define success for the month of February for you? Where do you want to be successful? What would make it a successful month? I will throw that at you guys, and then I'm going to drop the grenade and walk away.
No, this is Bull Dinky.
Yes, thank you thank you, Christopher.
So for me, it's just, I want my students to end the month, you know, better than they started the month. That's it. That's success for me, right? Professionally, it's just, you know, they gain knowledge and skills that they can use and transfer. All right. And that's something that, you know, I measure weekly. You know, like I shouldn't say measure. That's something that I assess weekly. Like, where are they at? Right. And it's an ongoing conversation. Like, so, you know, we talk about benchmarks. I could tell you before my students take an assessment, how they're going to do on that, you know? So like, and that's something that I pride myself on is knowing where they are in their learning journey and what they need next. And, you know, so if they end the month, you know, with more skills and knowledge than they started with, to me, that's success.
Well said, Mr. Chris.
Dave didn't talk long enough for me to fully formulate an effective answer.
That's all right. It could be personal. If you have a personal success you'd like to accomplish, it doesn't have to be professional. Dave went professional.
I would say personal professional would be, I have the opportunity now I'm advising a new podcast club at my school, and I've got, you know, 4 sophomores, 3 of which who I taught when they were freshmen last year. And they come and they do this show every morning. And having done it for 2 weeks now, once we came back from being virtual after the holiday, these 4 young people have grown by leaps and bounds in just a couple of weeks as podcasters and hosts. And I'm pushing them, right? Because I'm Mr. Podcaster. So I keep giving them things to do. I am challenging them, and they continue to rise to the challenge. And over the next month, I'm going to put more and more control in their hands, because I want to truly empower them to host and make the decisions. And I want to be able to support them. So that's what I'm going for.
I like it.
And the personal piece is, I love podcasting, so the more people I can get to do it, the better.
That's pretty awesome.
AJ, what's yours?
Yeah, Vanessa, I was raising the roof on that one. So you're right. You're right. I don't know why. I don't know any other way to support Chris besides raising the roof. Can't give him a fist bump. It just looks weird. What's mine? Okay. I don't know, man. I was hoping I can just get away with this. I honestly, yes, thank you, Chris. Again with the soundboards. I just want to keep pushing a school where kids feel like they want to come to, and where teachers feel good about teaching. Of course, obviously a safe environment, but an environment where kids are excited to come every day, where they're happy to learn happy to communicate, feel like they can trust the adults that are there for them, feel like that they are engaged in lessons and can interact with everything going on around them. I don't want them to be bored. I want them to have fun. Yes, Christopher?
I'm going to push you.
Oh boy.
Over the month of February, what is either something you already do to foster that, or what is something you can do daily or weekly that's an actionable item?
No,
What do
I
you
need to
do?
get I need to get in the classrooms more. I'm visible, but visible as I'm walking the hallways, visible as I'm stopping and talking to kids while they're, in the cafeteria or they're walking to class. I'll walk kids to class sometimes just because we're in a conversation, but it's about being in the classrooms to kind of show my support for the learning that's taking place. And I haven't really had an opportunity to do that very often. So hopefully February can be the time where I can get into classrooms and take part in learning and take notes, engage in the conversation and raise my hand and get part of a discussion, be a student in a variety of ways. That would be my goal.
Sounds like a good goal. I want to end on this note, right? So, if we feel like we're not doing the best that we can, we need to zoom out, right? And just don't look at the moment, right? Look at the body of work around it, right? So, if that's zooming out a month, a year, whatever it is, right? Over the past couple of years, and just look at the trend, right? Have things been improving? Have you been making an impact, right? There's a reason you got hired. That reason hasn't changed, right? So you're supposed to be where you are. It's not a fluke that you're there. Have your students have they engaged with you? Have they grown over the course of years? And so don't take those like little road bumps and just like it can feel tough in the moment, but just zoom out, right? It's easier said than done, but like I'm sure if you can do that, and I know there's some situations where that doesn't help, right? Because there's some situations that are really rough, but I think most of the time we'll see that we're doing some really good things, and we just have to understand that it's not a linear process, and like the trend will continue. If you're trending upward, you'll keep trending upward.
Dave, I like that. I think zoom out is wonderful. I think that's very powerful what you just put out there. So good advice, everybody. Zoom out, look at it from a distance, and figure out what you got going on. All right. So let's put a little ribbon on this one. My guys, Dave and Chris, why don't you tell everybody out here where they could find you and how they can be in touch with you and your lovely ideas. Christopher, where can people find you on the interwebs?
First, thanks for doing this, and thanks for letting me come in and chat with you guys. It is always a pleasure. If anybody wants to continue to chat with me, I am at Mr. Nessie on Twitter, and you can check out other things I do on my website, chrisnessie.com.
And I'm at David Franjosa on Twitter. You can find my stuff on reimagineschools.com and the podcast From Earning to Learning.
And you got me, AJ Bianco, on the social medias, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find. So reach out. Happy to have a conversation and hear what you got going on. So bring it. Bring it. All right. Over an hour. Good episode. Didn't want to stop it. So here we are. Thank you all for joining. Catch us, Dave, 2 weeks. What do we got?
2 weeks.
February
10th.
There you go. Don't even know the dates, but we'll be here. February 10th. Catch us here. We'll be tweeting about it. We'll be speaking to you soon. Take care, everybody.